Boop, 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 boop. Hey guys, how's it going? This here's Tracilyn, and I am also known as VCat. May I do that again? My name is Tracilyn. I'm also known as VCat. What do you think of my hat? You like that? I just rhymed, didn't I? I do that a lot. Yes. It's amazing. It's amazing I'm lucky to have a dime, really. Okay, check this out. I am here at Middle Creek, just on the outside of Lebanon. And it is a beautiful area. A lot of trees, mountains, if you will. Not too big of mountains, just kind of average in size here for Pennsylvania. And a lot of water. We used to come back here a lot, sometimes on our way to Mount Airy Church. Sometimes on the way back, usually. It was the way to go. But we might stop here to eat a donut or something like that. It's maybe on the way, you know. I shared a lot of time with my dad, and as a child growing up with my stepbrothers and sisters. And, oh, here, let me pull away from this tree. I'll tell you what, it's hard to do that. You want to drive with me? Kind of back up here because it kind of gets loud. Remember, I get distracted very easily. I need a lot of quiet. People that I've met throughout my walk of life as a rider, they don't get that. They don't understand that, and I don't understand it fully. But I do know, and I accept it. See, a lot of times we go through life and we try to understand everything before we even have acceptance for what it is. Okay? And you'll find out as I go through my life, there's a lot of things that right now you might not understand, or maybe you have better understanding of it than I do. Okay, but let me just give you some insight. I'm a rider. You've heard me complain quite a few times in these videos about, you know, when I'm talking and I hear a helicopter above me. In this situation, I hear rain. It's okay if the rain is consistent and it's making a nice soft sound over the roof of my car or the hood of my car. But when I was under the tree there a little bit, it started making off rhythm. It's not a steady rhythm. It's offbeat. And sometimes it's hard, sometimes it's soft. It's all over the place. And my natural instinct, I don't know about everybody else's, but my natural instinct is I'm kind of aware of this, you know? So as I'm sharing my life testimony with you, I try to get into a peaceful area, especially like now that I'm sitting here in my car, unfortunately, because it's raining outside. There's not too many places I can go. I looked for pavilions in this area. It's very unfortunate I have not found one. But this is great that I can share it in this area because it'll kind of inspire me of time shared with my family, shared with my grandparents, going up to Mount Airy. I don't want to ride too much about this. I'm going to summarize it a lot because I want to try to wrap things up, believe it or not, my life testimony. Let's see if I can do this in the next 7 days. I want to wrap it up. It's a very fast process. I know that I talk fast. I'm sharing things fastly. I'm trying to make it more colorful for you, okay? Instead of doing the same thing. I got to be honest, I've been watching my videos, evaluating them. I'm very disappointed that I've left anxieties, depression, fears, all this stuff piling up on me because I'm kind of worried about a lot of things in my life right now. I don't know if you ever felt this way. And the way I wanted to share my life story, may I just say that I needed a peaceful home environment. I needed a stable, consistent, steady, rhythmatic environment to live in. A drama-free. Do you ever feel that way? You need a drama-free. You don't want to be involved in fighting all the time or gossip. Let me tell you something. Don't be gossiping about people. It's horrible. Especially the people that are closest to you. If you get focused on yourself, you'll have less time to gossip about what everybody else is doing in their life. Okay? Usually when we gossip about people, it's because we're jealous and we're bitter. Stop being jealous and bitter if you are, and get focused on yourself. And stop worrying about what your sister's doing, what your brother's doing, what your mom's doing, your dad, unless they're hurting you. If they're hurting you, that's different. But if they're trying to live their life and be happy, get off their back. Start talking about yourself. Build yourself up. And I'm saying that out of love. I'm not saying that to be mean to you. I don't want to ride this too much. I got a lot to talk about. Let me tell you, and I wish I had a safe, stable home environment that I could continue to share my thoughts with you. Right now, what I was telling you is acceptance. We're talking about acceptance of things we don't understand, and I already admitted you may understand a lot more than me, you know, but it's acceptance. So here's the thing of what I'm talking about. All my life I fought with that. People just accepting Tracilyn for who she is. Okay? And it's not just about being transgendered. I'm a transgendered lady. I know I look more like a boy right now, probably to you. Or maybe I don't. I hope not. But if I do, it's okay. I start looking at myself sometimes, like right now, I look like a little 9-year-old kid. And I like that. I like that. My dream was to have a children's rock and roll ministry, you know? And gotta be honest with you, I'm quite disappointed in the way that my life has transitioned, especially over the last few years. Very disappointed within the abilities of myself. Did you ever feel that way? Eventually we'll get to talk about that. I wish I had more time. I was beginning to talk about acceptance and understanding of things. As you will find out, I don't want you to just accept the fact that I'm transgendered. Sometimes we need to learn a little bit ourselves before we can give ourselves permission to accept things. But, you know, what I'm realizing in life is if we live and let live, as long as nobody else is hurting anybody, we can get along just fine. We don't have to understand all the details of everything. You know, sometimes it just makes things too complicated. My dream is to share my life story with as many people as possible in hopes of inspiring them. I want to inspire you. I want to inspire myself. I've been listening to this. May I say that I've been watching myself through this anxiety, through all this frustration, even anger, if I was to be honest with you. Okay? And I see myself losing myself that I became. I'm not going to cry. I told myself I'm not going to cry about that. But I am going to accept it. My voice tone, you heard me complain about that a lot. Let me tell you something. In a world that demands you're on one side of the fence or the other, it can be very complicated. You know, you're trying to get through your life as peaceful as you can, trying to be as happy as you can. So some people think that you're disguising it. Let me just say, I invested many hours, many days, many months on my voice. And eventually I'll talk about that. And can I say that right now it's not where it needs to be? For me. Not for you. Not for the world. Not for anybody else. For me. Okay? Nobody understands how hard I worked on that alone. Not to mention my look. My illusion of projecting my inner spirit outwardly. So that I could be who I am and get through this world as peaceful as possible. Without causing drama. But I found out the hard way. Over a season of time, it doesn't matter how you conduct yourself if you yourself are a dramatic person, or if you're trying very hard to be a people pleaser, to try to please society's eyes, to please their ears by doing things around the house for them. No matter what you do, you can bend over backwards for people, and in the end, you're still after all that, going to be considered less than. And we'll leave it at that. If you're going through that, I'm sorry. You're not alone. You are not alone. So as I'm watching these videos, though it hurts me greatly, trust me, and it does, I'm surrendering it. I'm letting it go. I'm letting it go because I told you I have a son that I care about. I'm learning that now people are starting to listen to me. And they're finding my life journey interesting. I want to let it all hang out and let you know that I hurt even over my voice. My look. I worked very hard on it, okay? I was proud of myself. I missed out on a lot of opportunities in life because I was letting the world around me dictate and tell me who I should be and who I shouldn't be. Right now I'm going to talk about my career life. I talked a lot about my home life and being with my grandparents and being with separated parents. That pretty much sums it up. I don't want to keep on writing that stuff. Eventually, my hope would have been that I could have broke it down, kind of go back. You got a brief summary, got a lot of hours. You know, maybe an hour a day, 2 hours a day I'm putting out there right now. But after these 7 days, I should be able to summarize it up. And I wish I could go back in time and just kind of share with you different things that I thought about throughout my whole life. But right now, we're going to be working on relationships and careers. What should I do first? Careers? Yeah, let's do careers and get that out of the way. I can summarize a lot of that up. But then what I'm going to be looking forward to in the near future is my music life, which is, trust me, this is going to be very interesting. This alone is very similar to my life. Spiritual. I'm going to do spiritual another day. I'm going to do my school life, my entire school life in one day, hopefully. And being a transsexual, what that's like, transitioning from male to female, or the world's idea of male to female, okay? As well, I'm going to talk about the religious communities that I got involved in. I already started with that church up there. Great times. I looked forward to going to that church. Hear my grandmother sing. Always remember that. I wanted to go to hear her sing. I didn't say I want to go hear the message. To be honest with you, I never paid attention to the message. I was too worried about getting gum and halls out of my grandmother's purse, and I'd take my matchboxes. And she was okay with that. She never forced me to listen to the preacher as long as I was quiet. I had to be quiet, but I could play with my matchboxes or my Gene Simmons style or whatever I took, you know? Believe it or not, I took my Gene Simmons style to church. Yeah. I have a dog that I had for 10 years. I learned a lot having that dog. And then I'm going to take some time off. And I'll share with you about a traumatizing situation that occurred and happened to me around 2009. We got a long ways to go. It's starting to rain a little bit harder. I apologize if you hear it. This is how die-hard dedicated I am to it right now. Got a website at Tracilyn.com. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel. You want to subscribe to this. If you feel like a freak or you feel like an outsider, or maybe you're a religious leader or politician, I don't know, whatever. There's something to learn in sharing my life journey for everyone, including myself. I'm still learning from myself. It's very relieving. I want to help you walk through your life journey. I don't know if anybody ever taught you how to walk through your own life journey. And the importance I'm learning is very important right now. So maybe you're a school teacher. Maybe you're having challenges with children that are different, a diverse group of children. I can help you with it, believe it or not. I've been through a lot, you know. And we're going to start back here with occupations, because where I left off on Lafayette Street not so long ago, let me just say this. Eventually I hit a point where I couldn't take school anymore, and we're going to talk about it another time, but I was getting bullied, I was getting beat up, not every day, but let me tell you something, I was being threatened every day. And while I was in school, I'd be constantly trying to think of a new way to escape school. Do I go all the way down to the first floor and out an exit door? You know, how do I do this? What are creative ways? I would always be one of the first ones in the lower grades to stand at the door, because the doorbell would ring about 2:50. You know, the school bell would ring and I'd be out the door. But I don't want to talk too much about that now. Okay? Not yet. Just give you some insight. So I quit school when I was in 11th grade. 2 weeks into it, I refused to go that year at all. I finally talked my mom into signing me out. I was probably about that time, I was probably 17. I think I was 17, and I needed my mother's signature in order to do that. I don't know if they allow that to happen. I'm not recommending it. I did get my GED, and I was so proud about that. Let me share that with you another day, though. I was very proud that I got my GED. It was a big turning point in my life. So check this out. I was telling you that I worked for a masonry company. I'm going to talk really fast because I want to get through this as quickly as possible. So here's the thing. Keep up with me now. It was either working for the masonry company or it was working at a fast food chain called Long John Silver's. I'm not sure. I think I may have told you that it was a masonry company. But if I'm not mistaken, it was Long John Silver's, and I only stayed there for a little while. But I'm not sure. I don't have time to go back in time to reevaluate. So let me just say this, because these two jobs were side by side almost, that I think it was Long John Silver's, not the masonry company first. And what ended up happening, in order for me to step out into the professional world, something had bombarded me to the point that I figured it was time to cut my hair. Okay, cut my hair. Look like a boy kind of thing. You gotta hold this professional image for everybody. And I cut it off, and I remember the day that I looked in the mirror and I really, really disliked myself. I really disliked myself. So I ended up getting this job, whether it was Long John Silver's, a masonry company, or if it was working at a grocery store. You know, I'm adding more into it. Notice there was a lot of jobs that I had throughout my life. This all happened very quickly. And I do remember working there and looking out the window at my car all the time. I worked drive-through, you know, so I was usually the cook in the back. But at night, I would always come up through to the drive-thru and kind of, I was working my way into the cash register. I wanted to be up front all the time instead of in the back with all the grease and stuff flying around. Remember, I think I told you in another video, I'm not that good of a cook. And I didn't really like being in the back, behind the scenes kind of thing. I want to be up front. I want to be up there talking to I like talking to a lot of the elderly people that came in there. You know, to me that was fun. I was very entertaining for everybody. I was always kind of a hostess, entertainer kind of personality. But I remember always looking out the window at my car. At that time, my mother had given me her car, which was a 73 Duster. It was tan with a brown stripe, hatchback, so the back seat kind of folded down, reminded me of the Pinto. I know I said something at some point. My mom had a Datsun. I didn't get the Datsun. I don't know how this all happened, but the 73 Duster was bought by my brother. Cars is a whole nother story, but somehow it ended up being mine. My mom wanted me to make sure I had a car. And I don't want to get too heavily into it, but that was everything to me. And I'll tell you why. It's because I learned at a very young age, as I was telling you with my mom's boyfriend and everything, that if you have a car, you can have fun. Let me just assure you this right now. You can have fun doing anything. Playing on your computer, doing video games, you know, hiking, riding bike, whatever. You can have fun doing all kinds of things. For me, it was the car. I never had so much fun as a child growing up as we did in my mom's boyfriend's muscle cars, you know? And that was a big deal in Lebanon, Pennsylvania at the time. Because when you had a car, I didn't show you yet, maybe I'll have time, maybe I won't this time. But you cruise around the circuit is what we called it, which was like a big racetrack with a lot of red lights. And sometimes you race red light to red light or green light to red light kind of thing. You know, a block long. Sometimes you would go the whole strip through town. And I have stories about that, trust me. And I hope I get to share that with you too. But here's the thing. So we would race in town. Very seldom was it for money unless you went outside of town. So I just want to give you an idea. We spent a lot of time in there. We would park our cars alongside, watch the other cars run through town. That was a big deal. Even the cops enjoyed it back in that day. You know, as long as we didn't get too carried away, they were big fans. They even had their cars, or when they were younger, they had cars in the 50s and 60s and stuff. So this was acceptable behavior at the time. So you had a lot of relationships with the cops that were there too. That was really exciting. If you were respectful to them, they were always respectful to you. And they would pull you over sometimes just to talk to you about your car. It was pretty amazing. You know, we had great times with them. And with that being said, you know, because you had a car, you could make friends, you could hang out in town and go to the fast food joint or a pizza place, and other people with their cars would be showing up. The faster your car, the nicer it looked, the more opportunities you're going to have in having fake friends. Got you. Fake friends. Because it's going to be friends that are attracted to you because you have a car. Okay? Not necessarily because of who you are. And I've realized that throughout my life. And this is a very heavy subject. Sometimes you would be very fortunate and your cars would help you connect to other people with similar passions. So there's good and bad in this. But I made a lot of what I call fake friends. Just people who kind of wanted to use me to hang out with me. So you had a material thing that maybe they weren't old enough to drive. Maybe they were, but they didn't have a muscle car. They couldn't afford one. Tracilyn did. And I had people hang out with me just because of that. And that's very painful when you're trying to deny that. We're trying to fight that. So I'm not going to talk a whole lot about that. I would love to. And I'm hoping if I can squeeze that in later on, that can be a Superball moment with cars, okay? I don't necessarily have to be in that area to do that for you, unless I show you the circuit kind of thing. With that being said, I wanted to have friends. I didn't recognize the fake friends thing kind of thing going on. And let me just be honest, clarify this too. I actually did make really good friend that I had. But I already knew him before we had cars. Okay? So before we had cars, we had bikes, we had a lot of things in common. So sometimes having something like a car, you can connect with other people. Okay? You can connect with other people who have cars. Maybe they work on the motors, but you do body work. You know? So there is a lot of interaction. But you're just more exposed and prone to make friends on for not fully the right reasons. But sometimes we can actually make really great friends and expand our friendships with many other people because we have something in common. In common. But understand, to this day, I don't like to work on cars. I like to drive them, but I don't like to work on them. So with that being said, music is my passion. Music is really my passion. So for me, it would have been a lot healthier for me to connect with a lot of people that were into music. You know, and if you remember, by going back on some of my old videos, you will see that I ended up connecting with this friend who had a car because he also loved music, and we had a bike, and we had long hair, so we're kind of connecting. We have a lot of similarities. We like a lot of the same bands and things, so we introduced each other to different bands. We had a great relationship. Cars was an addition. Not to get sidetracked, we can talk about that a whole nother time. Sticking with the careers. So I wanted a car, that was the reason, so I could have friends, so I could be cool and hopefully be liked. And I was liked by the circle of people or so. Some people really liked me and some people pretended to like me, okay? With that being said, Long John Silver's, changing my appearance, wearing the uniform, I didn't like it. I don't want to wear a Long John Silver's uniform, or anybody's uniform for that matter. I like to dress the way I want to dress. I feel more comfortable. Sometimes I'll dress more punkish, like a little kid. And sometimes, you know, I'll dress more classy, very classy lady. Sometimes like a slob, let's be honest. Sometimes I dress like a slob to run down to the store and grab myself a box of cereal. So I had to get out of there. I obviously was not making that much money, and I wanted to fix up my car, and I eventually wanted to get another one. I always felt bad because my mom gave me her car, and I knew the life that we had growing up. So I wanted to try to take care of it to the best of my ability, and I also wanted to be able to take care of myself and the responsibilities of having that car. I didn't want her to keep paying for it or paying for my gas, okay, to go around town. So most of us did not have a whole lot of money at that time, even the guys that I hung around with and stuff like that, the kids, the teenagers, we didn't have a whole lot of money back then. So we all came up with creative ideas, and I was sharing some of those with you. We're not going to keep repeating that, about how we kept those cars running, okay? Now here's the thing. At some point with the lady that I was dating at the time, the teenage girl that I was dating at the time, and I'll talk about relationships a little bit later, her sister, who I love dearly, her sister's boyfriend at that time worked for a masonry company outside of Hershey, Pennsylvania. And they were always looking for laboring jobs at that time. Were very easy to get, especially if you had an inside connection. And I learned this throughout my life, that if you know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody, you'd be surprised on how different your life could be. But when you don't know anybody, life can be very challenging no matter how talented you are. I learned that the hard way. So in my younger years, I was fortunate. I had people who knew people who knew people who knew people. And these guys at the masonry company that I worked for, I got in as a laborer. I was explaining to you before in a few videos ago that I gotta drink a little something. You hear my voice sounds horrible right now. These guys used to like teasing me and picking on me because I was very, much like a sissy boy. I started to let my hair grow out a little bit, so I don't know if which job was first or whatever, but at that time I had a little bit longer hair. I was remembering I didn't want to necessarily be there. I would rather be driving my car, hanging out with my friends, playing guitar really a lot. I always wanted to play guitar when I was working with these guys, and we worked 7 to 3. It was my first full-time job, you know, so to speak. I was very grateful, and the owner of the company was phenomenal. He was a really nice guy, always treated his people with a great deal of respect, and I used to observe that, you know. These guys were tight together. They were like a brotherhood, and he was like the dad, you know, the higher power kind of thing that is kind of supervising over it, and as long as we were being good to him and doing what we're supposed to do, he was okay. Listen to your music, have a good time while you're working, clown around. I got picked on a lot because of me. You know, these guys were strong. I don't know if you ever saw masonry guys. I'm very attracted to guys who do work with brick and stuff because they usually got really big muscles from tossing this stuff around their whole life, being a labor and things like that. It really toughens you up, you know? And I gotta be honest, even at that time, I knew I was very attracted to these guys. For a lot of different reasons, you know, not just wanting intimacy from them. I don't know necessarily if it was that, but I really was drawn to these guys. So, I don't know if they see this video, if they're going to remember who I am. Probably not until later videos. But here's the thing, check this out. That was a reason why I started liking country music so much. I think it was the new 90s were coming out. They called it new country at the time. One of my favorite country singers that ended up happening a few years later after that, so this is later 90s or something, mid 90s by the time I liked her, was Terry Clark. But just understand, I love Terry Clark, I always did. And I'll explain a little bit about my musical life another time. I can't really remember the country music that was really big on the radio at the time. Might have been Garth Brooks, maybe not. Maybe not yet. I'm not sure. Probably not. Maybe so. I don't know. But this, I don't want to get everything confused with my musical life, but I loved country because of these guys. It was opening up doors. Remember I told you my cousin was listening to rap music, so I started listening to rap music. He opened up the doorway for me for that. And I was always curious. I wanted to learn more about music as a whole, and we'll talk about that later. And then now these guys are opening up with country. So I knew every day I went to work, I was going to hear country and see these muscle heads. And it was great because in the summertime is when we worked the most, and they would be sweating. And did I mention they had muscles? So that was one of my jobs there. And like I said, they teased me a lot. Fusion Coatings was a place that I worked at. I don't know if many of you from around Pennsylvania area remember where that was, in Robozonia. I worked there for several times. I got it through a temp service out of Lebanon. Got it out of a temp service. I was there for a while doing assembly line work. I don't know how long I lasted there. It was supposed to be a very temporary job. From what I remember, I got it with the girl that I was dating at the time. We got it together through a temp service, and we used to work across each other. It was these wheel weights. I don't know if you ever seen them on the side of the old cars anyway. To balance the rims and the tires is what they were doing, balancing the tires. They would put these little tiny wheel weights on. Well, before they actually got shipped out to be sold or used or what have you, is they would put like a coating over them. So therefore, we worked at Fusion Coatings. We would take these parts, actually a supervisor would dump them onto where we were working, and we would feed them down in a row, as fast as we could. Our little hands went all over the place, right? And my girlfriend at the time is working directly across from me. And let me just tell you, without getting into the relationships now, she was my best friend. So we could even work together, we lived together, we did everything together. We did get into fights together, but for the most part, we always had fun together. When we weren't having fun together at work, it was kind of challenging, you know, fighting with the person you love right across from you, working all day. There were times we had to get up and walk out. We both went into the bathroom or something and cried or whatever we did, but we had some of the awesomest times. And it was a small shift. It was on third shift. So basically, that was the only machine. The only reason that factory was open on third shift was for that machine, for the wheel weights, to coat them. And they would go through an oven and on a conveyor belt, and then they would be heated up, and then like a spray, like a powder spray, would get these things, and it would be turned around and it would go back through. So now that we'd get the other side, go through an oven, bake that on pretty good, and then they would spray it, bake them, and then basically they're done for packaging. Weigh them out, package them. And that's what the supervisor kind of was like, a laborer in a way too. They just kept us busy, kept us stocked. They ran the forklift and did some odd jobs, but pretty much we were all working. The three of us were working together. Something about this place is, can I just say, it was a relief then at that time to have him as a supervisor. I won't mention his name. Anybody who worked there, because I said the name, you know who it was. He is a very well-favored and liked gentleman. He used to, at that time, had long hair, kind of like if you ever saw Billy Ray Cyrus. This is the kind of hair that he had, but it was spiked. It was more spiked. He always reminded me of a Burnett, Eric, is it Berman? Berman? I'm not sure. The bass player from Cinderella. Kind of reminded me of him, but with darker hair. You know, because it was spiked up top here, and then he had it really long, like Billy Ray Cyrus. I forget what they call that. Leave me a comment down there. I forget what that was called. Not a crew cut. What do they call that? People got picked on and made fun of later years, and, you know, as the 80s were diminishing or what have you, and the 90s were coming in. But basically, his whole top was spiked, and it was long. And this used to, the reason I keep on bringing that up is because to me, he was the coolest personality I met. Everybody in that factory liked him, including the owners, the manager. Everybody liked this guy. And, you know, there were some things about him. I don't want to talk about his personal life, but he had tattoos. You know, he was well liked in town. He had a custom van, you know. And, I want to steer away from it because some things would definitely give it away as far as to who it was. But he had a van at the time. It was blue. And I just remember that when he worked with us, it was like working for a brother. You know, he was always so kind to us. He didn't mind if we were way ahead, and I don't want to get him in trouble, but if we were way ahead of ourselves, we might be able to get a few minutes extra to go get ready for lunch break, or if we wanted to run down the road to grab something at a mini mart in our car, we were okay with that and come back. Very relaxed guy. He just wanted you to get the work done. And most people that worked for him worked extremely hard because that's how much they liked him. So they wanted him to look good in front of his peers, his bosses, and stuff like that. A lot of happy moments in that factory. Later on, for some reason, I ended up quitting. I went on to other things, which I'll talk about. Can I just say, and leave off with this, is I ended up going back there a few years later, and that always stuck in my head because I remembered the atmosphere. I remembered how laid back it was. It was an enjoyable place to work. Absolutely enjoyable. And I was always fascinated with the powder paint. And I didn't like working around the ovens. I burned myself quite a few times with that. I'm not good with ovens. That's why I don't cook. I'm not good at cooking. But I remember working in this place. They used to kind of take tours if they were interviewing you. I'm just telling you, if they should have tours just for people to come in there and check that place out, because it's an amazing, at that time, small factory, you know, and it's really cool to see a process like that get done. They do things like one of the things was for like I think it was Honda Progressive battery terminal hold downs. They hold down the battery. But I went back there a little bit later on. I didn't get in that position. I forget exactly where I started off. It might have been in the back in what they call the clean and priming room. You'd bring the parts in, you clean these, you dip these parts into a solution that cleans them really good. And then you, of course, you prime them with like a spray primer, not a powder, but like a spray liquid. They did sandblasting, blast off the rust. Let me tell you something. I really liked working at this place a lot. It was so much fun for me. Everything about it. So much that I worked there the second time around for almost 2.5, and I know it sounds funny, 2.5, 3.5 years, somewhere in there. It was the longest job at that time that I had. You'll find out I bounced all over the place. This is the longest job I had because I loved the manager, I loved the owners, I loved this guy who I started working beside of. You know, he taught me so much. He was the only one I met in my whole life. He takes people under his arm. and he walks you through. And if you ever have a problem, come see me. I don't mind helping you. He is the friendliest guy I ever met in my life. And he looks cool. He looks like a rock and roller. You know, why is he so kind? I never figured that out to this day. I want to be more like that. I don't want to look like him. I kind of did in a way. I wanted my hairstyle like his or whatever, and Billy Ray Cyrus and other people. But nowadays, I still reflect back on that personality and I say, I want to be more like you. You know, I want to be kind to people. I want to help people when they're having a hard time and having a chat that they can trust to come to me. I'm going to help them to keep their job and to do a good job and, you know, to help them get through life a little bit, make their life a little bit easier. For some reason, he kind of took me under his arm as he did other people, but he felt good doing this to people. He felt good helping them. I found out later years, which might still be now, he ended up being a plant manager, you know? And he is worthy of that position. May I just say he's worthy of that? Awesome experiences. At that time, we smoked, me and my girlfriend. I guess maybe he did. I don't want to talk too much about that. But the bottom line is, you know, we'd go out a few minutes early or something like that before we'd clean up at the end of the day. We'd get our cigarette because we did good. And he knew how to be productive for the company, but yet treat its people with a great deal of respect. And I've learned in life as I got older that people like him are hard to find. Okay? It kind of diminished over the years. I don't know if that happens for everybody and all around, or if that was just, I was very lucky in life. Notice I say how the policemen were really nice, and the people that I worked with were really nice. We were like a big family. Okay? This place, Fusion Coatings, was more like a family. Everybody was like brothers and sisters. We were all going through struggles. Every one of us. And there was different levels of it. There was some gossiping in there. There was some bitterness and stuff. But overall, a lot of the people that worked there were the same people who worked there for years. Some even their whole life, just about. They didn't want to leave. I got to be honest, the only reason I wanted to leave is when I ended up talking to the manager, because, let me just say this. He remembered me from before, when I worked there in the beginning. And when he took me in, he observed me. These guys helped me. They brought out the best in me. And let me just say, I'll never forget the first day he took me back to his office. He had an office in the back of this factory. And he sat me down and he said that he's been evaluating me. And that he's been doing a lot of thinking and talking with the owners. And he feels very strongly that I, Tracilyn, have the qualities to be a supervisor. Like the guy I admired. Can you imagine what that did to me? You know who you are. You have no idea how that touched my life. Same with the guy who worked above me. You have no idea. To have him take me back into his office, I didn't know if I was going to be scolded or not. And let me just say that I ended up being a supervisor for the first time in my life, really, that I remember. Maybe others, I'll have to look back here, hold on. But I ran 2 machines, and it was right beside the guy I admired. Now I'm being put into this position. It's a lot of responsibility, can I handle it? And now I have 2 people that I'm kind of supervising over. All this expensive equipment. Let me just say, I felt really proud of myself. I was really, not really proud of myself, I was really thankful, grateful. And I couldn't believe that these guys are feeling that way about me. And this guy over here that was helping me, which I won't mention his name with the blue van, that's all I'll say. Everybody knows who he is with that. He was so happy for me. He wanted me to excel, you know? And he had an eye out for people. These guys, these families, they paid attention. Do you love your job? Do you show up here every day? You know, are you willing to work hard while you're here? It's okay. They didn't mind if you play. They didn't mind that we talked to each other. They didn't mind that. We're getting our work done. So they were laid back with that. As long as you're getting your work done and it's productive, the place is clean, keep it clean, you know. There was very small things that they expected. And it was very, may I just say, it was reasonable expectations that they had. Okay? Outside of that, there were times that I walked all the way down to the other end of the foundry. I told the people working for me, is there anything you would need? Do you want a glass of water? Because a lot of these people that were working, the girls, they want to stay dedicated. They're dedicated. They want to do this. You know, they love their jobs. A lot of these people love their jobs. Do you need water? Do you need to take a break? Because if you take a break, I'll keep your rate up because I'll fill in for you. Okay? We took turns with this. We were a family. Notice I said about the neighborhoods being a family. Well, this was a family for me. The first job I had as a family, and I felt like I could be a team player. I could talk about, let me tell you, I'm hoping someday I can break all this down for you. But when the plant manager took me back there, and I admired him because he was always dressed classy. Always dressed classy. And he had the most beautiful lady as his wife in that factory. She was the most beautiful she reminded me of the girl I was dating in the beginning, you know? That you'll find out, my first girlfriend. I admired these two so much. I wanted to be like the plant manager. You know, not necessarily like him. I wanted to be more like his wife, in all honesty. But classy. I wanted to dress nice and go to work and be a person of integrity and be a person that kind of looks over and keeps a family together, a whole lot of people together. I really wanted to be that kind of person. Little did I know all the responsibility he had. I don't think I wanted all that. It wasn't for me, and I'll find out in the end that that wasn't for me. But see the excitement in me? I love that place to this day. I'll never forget it. Never. And I worked there for a couple years, and I'll never forget the last conversation we had when we went in there. And I'll tell you really quick. When we used to go to lunch break, there was a lot of gossiping, sometimes amongst people. There was that. And I didn't care for it too much. I tried to remove that's when, I realized from a kid growing up, so I don't want to be involved in that. I love everybody here. And I don't want, I'm a person that I'm very thankful to be up a little bit. I'm supervisor, and I don't want to lose that position. I don't want people thinking I'm backside. I want everybody, I want to be more like my friend over here. I want kind of people to be able to come to me and talk to me about things. Because we were very open when we were dealing with our own personal struggles, and I didn't want people to think I was stabbing them in the back. So I did my very best with that. I'm human, I mess up, but I did my best. The one thing, though, that was really hard in the end is I wasn't making enough money at the time. I wanted more money. And a lot of it was because I wanted a car, I wanted an apartment, I wanted to get guitars, I wanted things in my life. And I wanted to travel. I knew all this stuff. I wanted to do so much, and it just wasn't making it for me. I didn't know what to do. I wasn't smart enough to figure out life, but I just knew that if I stay there any longer, it's just going to be it was for everybody, it takes time. It took years before a position might open up that you could get into. And I'm not beating this place up. I love it. I fully understand. But there was more, that I desired. When I told you how I light up because the plant manager, I admired him so much, the way he would dress and stuff like that, and, his wife and stuff. And there was just so many more. It's not that I was a material person. I guess maybe I was a material person, but I just wanted more things, and I wanted... even buying guitars, it was all a challenge for me. It was very little money that I was making, or I felt I was making, and looking back now, if I'm honest, without hurting people's feelings, it wasn't enough. It was not enough. I definitely, even today, with that salary, I couldn't have survived on my own. And I wanted to be able to take care of myself. So with that being said, I'll never forget when I went back, because the good friend that I was telling you about, John, I can say his name because he showed you him. Okay. His name is Johnny, the guy in the pickup truck when I was in Jonestown. And may I just say that I was dating his sister at this time, and again, relationships open up doors. You know people, you're good friends with people, you need a job, you need something in your life. Listen, when I was growing up and into my 20s, I connected with people much differently than I do now. When you're a time in desperation, we're going to help you. We help each other. I do the same for you. I'm going to do what I can to help you. This is what I was trained with in my life growing up. Doors open that way. And he was working for somebody out of Harrisburg, which was a pointing company. They did restoration as masonry. And may I just say, without giving you a salary with this, that it was easily over double, with the possibility of triple the amount of money I was making an hour there. So when I started talking to the manager, it was very painful for me. But I told him about my possible new job that was coming up, and I just wanted to find out if it was possible for me, you know, without stepping on anybody else's head. Is it possible for me to get an increase at all? You know, and pretty much I was at my limit, and he was thinking at the time he might be able to give me a little bit, because he didn't want to lose me. He really liked me. I liked him a lot. And long story short, when he asked me, you know, I was very honest with him about stuff, and when he asked me about how much I could make, and he looked at me and he said, you know, Tracilyn, basically, I'm not quoting, but he said, Tracilyn, you don't want to pass that up. I understand you need to go for this. You know, that's over twice as much salary. I'm leaving my family job now for money. I gotta be honest, I'm glad that I don't work there now. No offense to hurt anybody, but music was my thing. What I'm doing now is my thing. And I'll never forget how I told him how much I admired him and how much he meant to me. And everybody there, that it was a family thing. And the only reason I'm leaving is because of money, and I feel awful about it. But I really want to move ahead in my life. I want to get a house someday. I want to get married. I want to maybe have a new car. You know, get guitars and all this other stuff. And he fully was understanding. You know, get out there. Wherever opportunities to come your way, don't let that hold you back. Fusion Coatings will always be here, you know, or be here for however long. It'll be here for a while. So I quit responsibly with him, letting him know how much he meant to me and the plant meant to me. And it was understood, and he was very respectful to me through the process, you know. So if you're out there, if you hear this story, I love you guys. I love all of you that worked there with me at that time. You have no idea. Back in the day, I was such an outsider, an outcast. And you guys, it was so nice to work in an environment that I felt useful. I was a helper, making things happen. So I hope the plant is still doing good, and the people who owned it then, and the manager and all that other stuff, all the people, I hope they're doing great, you know. So since I talked about that, let me just talk about this really quick. I ended up getting the opportunity to work with John. We have a lot of stories to share with that job. It was a pointing company. If you ever look at a brick building, there's the mortar joints, you know, the mud that's in between the brick or the stone. Well, we would take these grinders with these blades on and kind of grind them out. I don't know about how far in, maybe a 1/16 of an inch, 3/16 of an inch, something like that. It wasn't very far, but it was, some of the old buildings, it was really hard. You had to use a lot of muscle, so I had a lot of calluses and sores on my hands, even though I wore gloves. You had to make sure you wore a mask to cover your nose because all the dust would be flying around, and you know, safety glasses, of course. And let me just say that we got all that money because it was called scale jobs. It was usually they were doing schools and things like that. I don't want to talk about salaries or nothing like that, but let me just say, oh yes, the paycheck made me very happy in the end, you know, that I could buy things now comfortably, without a problem. And me and my friend, because we worked together, we were die-hard workers. He is a hard worker. Let me tell you that, even to this day, he is a hard worker and dedicated. You show up no matter what reason. You work. He's a worker. And we used to go there and spend all day working together. Then afterwards, we would usually either go to his house, because I would meet him at his house with my lunch kettle and stuff, and then we'd kind of go together. And we would end up drinking afterwards, or smoking cigarettes and hanging out and talking with the families and stuff. I was dating his sister. He was dating whoever, and that's the way it was, a routine. And on the weekends we would still get together. This is how much of a family this was. Pretty much what ended up happening is me, his sister, him, his whole side of the family. We're all just like a big family. It was like I kind of adopted me into it because I was dating his sister. And it was amazing times in our life. Amazing times in our life. We used to use is it an LGT or GLT or something like that? I don't know. Maybe you could write this down for me. A lift that we used to have to stand in. It was a basket. And we would hook up our extension cord to that, wrap it around there, and then take our grinders up with a garden hose to spray this stuff down, because it was always easier, and it kept the dust down, settled down a little bit when you were using this garden hose to wet things down. So, and then we would take it up to whatever level. Some of these buildings were really tall. Tracilyn already knew a childhood. She's scared of heights. But now we're in a lift. I had the opportunity to try it out a couple times on the weekend before I quit, before I put in my notice, to make sure this is what you're going to be doing. I think that, and he kind of coached me into doing this. So he's like, you ought to consider doing this. This is a great opportunity to make money. He was working at his job for a long time. Now he's working there. You ought to come. You ought to come. You ought to come. Let's make money. And at that time, that's what our main focus was. We all want to make money. Well, let me just say something to you. If you're not doing exactly what you love to do, I don't care how much money you're making. It's not enough. Did you get that? If you're not doing... Look at me. Look here. Look. Okay? If you're not doing what you want to do, no matter how much money, whatever the perks, it's not enough. In the end, it's not enough. And rest assured, time moves on very quickly. And before you know it, you may or may not find out you have money or you don't have money. But your whole life was spent doing it. Okay? That might not have came out clear. Do what's in your heart. Do what you love. No matter what anybody else says to you, or if they make fun of you, okay? Always remember that. You'll hear more. I'll get to talk to you about that. So we spent a lot of time drinking on the weekends. I got to meet a lot of other guys. Masonry guys, remember, turned me on all the time. Always did. There was this guy that I loved so much. He loved country music, too. A lot of masonry guys seem to love country music. It becomes a virus, amongst everybody. I don't ever remember anybody but Johnny who loved Ozzy Osbourne, or he does. He loves Ozzy Osbourne so much. Ozzy, I'm telling you right now, you do not know. Johnny loves you so much. I never met a diehard anyone fan. Johnny loves Ozzy. Just to spend a day with Ozzy would blow his mind into smithereens. Oh, so yes, because of Johnny, I listened to a lot of Ozzy. And he used to sing Ozzy up in this basket. Jesus. I never met somebody who was so crazy about him. You can talk to anybody I know and they will tell you that. You saw in the video, if you look closely, he has still, to this day, he has Ozzy seats and everything. I'm telling you, die hard. Die hard, die hard. And, but this one guy used to sing country. And one of the songs was George Jones. He loved George Jones. And he would sing, he stopped loving her today. And I can't sing right now. My voice is blown. But he would sing George Jones all the time. And it reminded me of my mother. And all the times that my mom listened to that 45. And cry. And drink. Lots of drinking. Lots of drinking amongst the people I knew. Everybody drank. Drank a lot, smoked a lot, ruined my voice anyway. And may I just say that because of my friend Johnny, and because of this one guy specifically, and some of the other guys too, not to be too partial, Um, it helped me get over my fears. I felt safe with these guys up in that basket. I'm singing Ozzy songs all day to me, entertaining me, because it was fun. It was all fun. Let me just say, once I got past the fear, it was fun. But I'd be the kind of person kind of holding on to the basket. Johnny in the beginning would help me with that. You know, don't worry about it, I'll get it. I know you're scared. And he would run back and forth this basket. He didn't care. And the whole thing's shaking, and I'm screaming at him. Because especially when I went alone, I barely moved. And I would do that job, but I wanted the money. I wanted to make money because there's things that I really longed for in my life. Oh, thank you. You know who you are. He stopped loving her today. He used to sing it to me all the time. Great George Jones impersonator. Mark my words, he'd go karaoke years later or during that time, and I'm telling you, very seldom, and I'm not for that, you know. I used to try imitating a lot of people, but when you hear people like that, it's just so mind-blowing that they have that much passion for somebody that they sound just like it. Johnny didn't sound like Ozzy, but he had such a passion for him, you know. It was crazy. He got teased a lot about it. He didn't care. He's proud to love Ozzy. I don't want to talk too much about that. I'll talk about my personal musical life as we go on. At some point, I worked at Murray State, so I worked at a meat place. Let me tell you something, I not within this place, but I just seen things that just, you know, may I just say that I was never much of a meat eater myself. My mom can vouch for that. That, like shepherd's pie, I would complain if there'd be too much hamburger in it. I did not want, like, a common back in my childhood was SpaghettiOs with hot dogs in it. I would eat my hot dog. I was raised for eating hot dogs, but I gotta be honest with you, I didn't want them in my SpaghettiOs. I didn't want meat in my SpaghettiOs. Don't ruin my SpaghettiOs with meat. You know, and I don't want to offend anybody or get it started off on a diet, but I learned the hard way for myself. How I become connected more with the universe is through eating a lot of live foods, fruits, vegetables, and also with my own body image presentation, that when I start eating a lot of food that is still alive and it's in the process, if you will, I don't know how to say it, of dying, that energy source is kind of going through your body and it's being used up for you to move your fingers, blink your eyes, you know, twinkle your nose, all kinds of things. So there's a very live energy. And it started hitting me there, you know. I don't know what it was, but it was a fun place to work. It was a very diverse group of people, very respectful. I didn't like this job. I'll tell you why. Because they have codes to work there. You got to wear certain outfits, and you got to put your hair up in a net. You got to put your hair up in a net, and you want to make sure that you're all covered. And I worked in a freezer. So in a freezer section, I was freezing. If anybody knows me, I do not like the cold. I do not like the cold. And if you're watching anybody on television or listening to anybody and they say your circumstances do not matter, I'm here to tell you your circumstances do matter. Okay? They do matter. They do matter. If you don't like the cold, get out of the cold. Just like with my fear, when I started to fear, there was something inside of me. I was afraid of heights. Okay? How many times in my life did that fear save me from injuring myself? Okay? If you don't like the cold, there's a reason for it. Don't force yourself to tolerate it because everybody's making fun of you and saying, you know, it's not your circumstances, it's not your... It may be. You got to be careful with that, and I'll talk more about that another time. But let me just say, I used to watch a preacher lady, and she keeps on going off about that it doesn't matter about your circumstances. And I'm here to tell you, it does matter. It matters a lot. It's a big difference between being happy and not being happy. Okay? We need to minimize. We might not be able to create the perfect case scenario, but we can change different environments, different jobs for the right reasons, not the wrong reasons, and other circumstances. And even as something as simple as working in a cold environment, going to work every single day. Okay? We got to search within ourselves and be honest with ourselves to find the right answer. Because just like with my fear, me working in the cold when I knew I didn't like being in the cold. I like it hot, really hot. And a lot of people don't like that. Found that out when I went out to Las Vegas about a year and a half ago. It was almost 109 degrees out, and that's pretty hot. I gotta admit, I don't want to be out there all day long in the heat, in the direct sun. But it didn't bother me like it bothered a lot of people. Okay, I put my sunblock on. I'm thinking life is good out here. A lot of people are like, oh, I can't handle this. I'm not saying I want to be in 109 degree weather all the time. But I have learned that that lady who's complaining that it's what you're thinking about only. You know, if you're not taking the action to put yourself in the right environment, the right working environment in this situation, you're just setting yourself up for a very miserable life. Okay? Here we go. I worked there. I was a forklift driver. Something to let you know is when I was working at Fusion Coatings, and I very seldom will use these places, the actual name of the places. When I was working at Fusion Coatings, which I love a lot, so that's why I wasn't afraid to use the name. It's a great family-oriented place. These guys were phenomenal. I didn't use no names or anything. I didn't even tell you what year it was, so who was plant manager, you know. But at this place, and I'm not saying anything negative about Murray Steaks. Actually, I just told you I didn't like wearing the uniforms. I didn't like wearing my hair. So they're following their food code. They're doing what they have to do. I'm working in the freezer because I just need a job at some point. I don't know how or why I ended up quitting different jobs. I could go through this at some other time. But I'm just telling you, I went through a lot of jobs. I quit for a lot of different reasons. That one, obviously, I would have never quit unless money came into the picture, because I wanted a different lifestyle. I wanted to create my own, I wanted to dress nicer, have a nice home, have nice things. It wasn't for the right reasons that I left there, but in the same token, let me just say in the end, I was at the wrong place anyway. For me, I should have been doing music my whole life. That's all. Okay? We'll get back to that later on. So, I'm here and I'm working at this place, and I ended up being a forklift driver. And can I just say, I was so grateful to be working at this facility and being a forklift driver. Thank you guys for trusting me to operate a forklift, because I'll tell you what, it was kind of scary. I used to just use a little bit at the other place, and once I became a supervisor, I was using it more. And I used to practice a lot at nighttime. Believe it or not, people thought I was joyriding, but the truth is, he might get upset if he finds this out, I wasn't just joyriding. I'd go all the way back to the other end of the building to find little things that needed to be moved on purpose. I wanted to make it look nice in there, so I would kind of rearrange skids on purpose with this forklift, practicing. Okay, that's all. I just wanted to practice and get good at it. I didn't even know why. Something in my heart wanted to work the warehouse at one time, loading and unloading trucks. I don't even know why. I wanted to do that, you know? But I loved my position, and I loved my job at the time. I always admired the guy who was helping me a lot, seeing him, how he uses the forklift and stuff. I admire guys all the time doing this stuff. You know, my plant manager used to use it all the time. He'd be back and forth. He seemed to enjoy it. It looked like fun. It reminded me of riding the lawnmower when I was a kid. So here's the thing. Check this out. I get into this other place, which I already said, just working around all the meat had me process things, think about things. Is this, I already know that I do not like meat as a child growing up. Why am I even working around it? You know, my belief systems are different. Really want to remove myself from this. Not for any, I'm not saying right, wrong, or indifferent, okay? I understand that. It's not about that. It was a great place to work. A lot of friendly people that I worked with. A lot of people helped me, took me under their wings kind of thing. People went there with the mindset, we're here to work, let's have a good time, let's do our work. And the biggest thing that I didn't like was the outfit that I had to wear, putting my hair up, because I love to let my hair down. But it was obvious the reasons why you had to. But I got to ride the forklift there, and I was really excited about that. But I was also scared of heights, and there was times that I had to go up higher, and I said, I can't do this anymore. I'm cold all the time. I'm wearing these outfits. I'm wearing a hairnet, and now I'm working this forklift, which is the only thing I really like about the job anymore. It's not for me. I gotta go. And I know a lot of people in the London, Pennsylvania area made a very good living. They stayed there for years and did it. And I love all you guys. Listen to me. I love all you guys. I have nothing bad to say about it. It just was not a fit for some of the places I worked at, and this is not in order. One was a lawn care place. Now, I was really excited to have this. I think it was into my early 20s, if it was not my late teens. So I don't know the years. I didn't have time to organize this. But I remember it started off with this place. One of the reasons why I liked it a lot, and I think it was into my 20s, because I was living with my mom at the trailer across from my great-grandma. If you look on other videos, gotta go back other videos. And may I just say that working there as a lawn care, this was another guy who took his employees in under their wings, and he was fun to work with. And I also was attracted to him. A very good-looking man. I admired him because he had his own business. He kind of lived on a farm situation. And what we did is cut grass. I love cutting grass. How great is this? Plus, we got laid off in the winter time. So I could collect unemployment at that time. So I'd work in the summer as often as I can. Long days, long days, long days. And then when winter came, what a perfect setup. Oh my goodness, I can do anything I want to do all winter long and get paid for it. This is the greatest job in the whole world. Thank you. If you remember me, you know who you are. I'll just give you a hint. It's out in Myerstown, or it was at that time. He doesn't even do it anymore, I don't think. But anyway, so this is really great. We're cutting grass. One of the guys that worked there, he drinks a lot and stuff like that. So we're kind of hanging out together afterwards. I got to make some really good friends there. But here's the thing. Check this out. His mom also ran highway grass cutting. Oh my goodness, Tracilyn always wanted to drive a farm tractor. So, with that being said, I did a lot of push mowing and a lot of developments in Reading, Pennsylvania area and stuff. I didn't really care for that with the weed whacking. It's too much for my arms and stuff like that. I would rather be on the farm tractors, on the highways, unsupervised. Oh, you can imagine what that was like. Well, let me tell you, I got to know some of the guys that were on those farm tractors, and I found out they gave me some insight. There's going to be a position opened. You ought to talk to him now. You ought to talk to him now. Go talk to him now. And I talked to him. He was kind of saddened to lose me because I was there all the time, dedicated. I wanted to do this. I love mowing grass. I love being outdoors in the sun. I like working and sitting. I got to sit in the middle. Guess who sat in the middle of the truck? Between two guys. Me. Tracilyn, also known as VCAT. My boss is over here, and the drinker's over there. And let me tell you something. I got to wear shorts on the job, and I loved it. At that time, I was a bodybuilder, and I was starting to shave my legs. And let me tell you something. I wasn't afraid to show them. They were a lot bigger, a lot more muscular at that time. And can I just say that I loved being between two men because I started to feel like Daisy Duke from the Dukes. Did I say that? I did say that. And it is true. A lot of great times with these guys. A lot of great times. We were like a small family. Like the Duke boys kind of thing, you know? And I was Daisy. I didn't like doing so much labor work, though. I'll be honest with you. Throughout my life, I didn't like the labor work. I knew right away I don't want to do all this laboring stuff. You know? I injured myself at Fusion Coatings really bad with my back. My fault. I ended up picking something up that was way too heavy. It was supposed to only be, it wasn't my fault technically, but I mean, it was only like 15 pounds. It was supposed to be 15, no more than 15 pounds. It was these little tiny hooks. They looked like fish hooks, but they weren't. It was something else. Let's not get too technical about it. It ended up being, I still remember, it was like 123, 126 pounds. And I swooped it when I did to just go pick it up thinking it's 15 pounds. Anybody who ever did that, I twisted my back really bad. I was devastated over this because you know, it was kind of questionable, you know, if anywhere, if you work somewhere, are they just trying to take time off? And I assure you, if you're watching this, that was not it at all. I didn't want to get on workman's comp. I wanted to go to work. I was a worker. I wanted to work every day because I loved this place. But I was never so hurt in all my life up to that point. Never injured myself, except for like my skinned knee by my grandmother. If you look back on other videos with the methylate. Where are we? Oh, so this opened up with the farm tractors. And I got to hang out with a really cool guy at the time. He may know who he is. He used to tease me all the time about my smooth legs. Oh, we're talking about this as a transgendered individual growing up. He used to tease me about that because when he'd be driving our little blue S10 that our boss had, right, Tracilyn would be like this. Here, let me see if I can show you. See that? With my legs up. Like this. Okay? And I was so comfortable, so relaxed. He was driving. I always liked a guy driving, you know, and I'm being the passenger. So we'd take turns. Either I would drive up to the Poconos. He loved driving back because at the time, it's all over with now. He liked driving fast. He wanted to get home when he wanted to get home. We didn't get paid to drive home at that time. So he wanted to get home as fast as possible. I would not do that. Very seldom did I break the speed limit laws. Seriously. And I even had muscle cars, and I used to race, but in somebody else's car, I wasn't like that. I wanted to be a person of integrity. Remember, I want to get along with my bosses, my managers. I want to look for opportunities to advance myself as well as others. I want to help them to maximize their life. But to me, the relationship between a supervisor and a boss and yourself was, you know, it was a brotherhood. And they're giving you the keys to the truck. They're asking you, you know, they want you. They're showing you, I'm trusting you with this. Please don't let me down. And because I didn't have to do a laboring job, I was riding the tractor all day long. And let me tell you something, I put my knees up on that tractor all day long. And this is how I was riding. And let me tell you, I'm looking around and I'm thinking, life is good. Life is good. All along 78, it was the first time I started getting close to New Jersey. I loved that. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure I loved... The reason I love New Jersey so much originally is because of Bruce Springsteen and John Bon Jovi, of course. And I always thought, just like I thought about meeting John Cougar Mellencamp in Indiana someday, I thought, wouldn't that be cool if, you know, when I'd see a limousine go by, wouldn't that be cool if that'd be John Bon Jovi and for some reason he'd stop by and ask me for directions or something? That'd be pretty cool, wouldn't it? Gotta smoke. Hey, farm girl. At that time, it would have been farm boy. Oh, I wouldn't have liked that too much. But he would have said, hey there, farmer, you got a cigarette for me? I didn't know if he smoked or not. But I'm just saying, you know, stupid things like that go through your head when you're out in the sun all day long enjoying yourself. It was a very comfortable job. And I used to think of Steven Tyler and stuff, Aerosmith, you know, coming every time I saw a limousine. Why was that? Why did I think of John Bon Jovi or Steven Tyler from Aerosmith every time I saw a limousine when I was mowing grass? And I was hoping they're going to stop by and ask me for something. At that time I smoked. Wouldn't that be cool if they stopped and asked me for a cigarette? Nowadays, it'd be even nicer if they stopped and asked me for a kiss. These were my jobs. And we had a big 10-foot or 15-foot mower behind us. One tractor had a roof over it. He liked to have that. I didn't want it. I wanted to be out in the sun. I wanted to work on my tan. So actually, check this out. We would kind of switch. I didn't like it near the end. He started realizing that I'm getting a tan and stuff, and he also liked to be dark. So we'd kind of swap around back and forth. But I didn't like driving that tractor because the roof was over. I wanted to be in the sun all day. Listen, it's not wise. I wore sun lotion, you know, the whole time. I wore protection. And, you know, so I'd be careful on how I'm facing, so sometimes my shadow alone would cover my legs and stuff like that. I would not do that anymore. I would not spend my whole day in the sun like I used to work. And I would always wear sunblock or sun lotion or whatever to protect the skin. And you'll find out more about that as time goes on. I started being more careful about things like that as I got older. But I'm working out at the gym at that time, buffing myself up because... Let's just face it, Tracilyn's tired getting her butt kicked all the time. Although I'm not a physical laboring person, you know, I like that driving job, right? I did work on my body all the time. I worked out at the gym about 4:30 in the morning. I talked to the owner of the gym. I told him about it, that I'd like to start working out early before I go to work, because after work I'm too tired. I had a hard time just accepting that. A lot of guys work out after work. I have to work out before work. I want all my energy. That's when I want to do it. And then I'm good to go at work. But by the time I'm done with work, I'm ready to go home, have a couple beers, and go to sleep. Not anymore. I don't like to drink beer anymore. It's just me. I just don't like it. So I would go home and go to sleep, then wake up early, go to the gym, go to work, go home, go to sleep. I got in a pattern. That's all I did. Gym, work, sleep. Gym, work, sleep. It was long drives going back and forth. It was from Myerstown, Pennsylvania, outside of Lebanon. And let me just say that we used to work up in the Poconos all the time, and I've never gotten the opportunity to go into the Poconos. This was the farthest I ever went, and we went every day. So as a kid growing up, I stayed in my neighborhoods. By that time, you know, just before a few years before then, I was afraid to get off my porch. Now we're leaving our whole county. We're going to a whole nother county. It was about an hour and a half drive away sometimes, depending where we were cutting grass. But we came home every day, drove back. I drove there, and then he drove back because he wasn't afraid to go a little bit faster than me. Fun experience there. We had a blowout with him driving one time. Maybe it was me. Maybe we each did. Sometimes we, you know, being a farmer and stuff, and the trucks being used so hard for work, as work trucks, it's very unfortunate with the I don't know their budget or anything like that, but we sometimes had these tires and extra tires in the back because we would get blowouts along the way. So they're trying to keep things running for us because we really love our job. And they were thinking of pulling out at that time, and we just kept reassuring them we love them. Didn't get paid very much at all. Can I just say, I didn't make very much money with that, but I have some of the most amazingly fun times. I love that job. I liked it way better than being a lawn, cutting grass for the lawn care. I didn't like that. It was too much laboring work for me. You know, my body couldn't handle it. But holding onto a wheel on a tractor, enjoying time in the sun, you know, reminiscing about who's coming from New Jersey. Is that Whitney Houston? Who is that? Who's that in the limousine over there, you know? Sometimes they'd beep and we'd wave. Just having a good time, enjoying life. And this is back when I was in my 20s, late teens. This looks like it's getting ready to run out. Battery, memory, all together as one. Told you I was going to move into relationships. I'm going to finish up with a little bit of my jobs if I can think of anything else. Okay? And when we get into relationships, it'll be pretty wild. Maybe that'll go by quickly. So I'm just going to keep on talking here. This might not be turning out the way that I was hoping it would turn out. In fact, I know it's not. But I'm glad I have the opportunity to share it with you. I had some of the best jobs in all the world for me. They didn't pay very much money. Could never take care of myself like that. But there's a lot of other things I could have been doing that I wasn't doing. And you'll find that out when I start talking about the later years of my life. Life as an escort. Yes, an adult entertainer, me, VCAT, was an escort. And I learned a lot about myself, my sexuality, and much, much more. Much, much more. I learned that being in a lot of these relationships were totally, let's say this is a mixture. I'm looking forward to talking about that with you next. Okay, so I see I got about 2 minutes here left. I don't want to get started on anything too dramatic, because I want to talk about me driving truck too. It's very important to me that I bring that up. I can't think of any of the other odd jobs at the present moment. Okay, my music career I'm going to wait to talk to you about during my musical life. I want to spend a whole day talking about that. Just that alone. It's very important to me to get that out in the open and share what I learned. Hopefully I didn't offend anybody, because I have nothing bad to say at all. It just wasn't for me, you know? That's all. That's all it was. It was just a mismatch for me. The masonry company, it wasn't a match for me. The laboring job. Remember I told you lawn care, even though I liked cutting grass, it wasn't for me. It was labor. But now he could utilize me and I'd be really happy. Wasn't making much money, but I was having the time of my life working with that guy. I told you that we'd drive home. We have so many memories together. I just don't have enough time to talk to you about them, but let me just assure you, I'm telling you, these were great times riding those farm tractors. That's all we did. Did that for probably 2 or 3 years of my life. You know, you'd have off in the wintertime. And in the wintertime, get a call from my boss. He trusted me. He trusted me to be a supervisor and oversee things there on the job after this other guy had left. And let me just tell you that as well, in the wintertime, he trusted me to drive his trucks with a plow on them. So that's how I made my extra money in the wintertime. And I'll tell you what, I have some stories about that too that I'm hoping to share with you someday. So just understand this, money doesn't make you happy. Okay? Money didn't make me happy. The jobs did. What I was doing with my life during that time made me happy. But I should have been doing a lot of other things instead. To be continued. For flashing new. Boop. There we go. I just turn it off.